The following content is provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseware continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or to view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseware at ocw.mit.edu.
So once you have the batteries out, they go in the back of the camera. This spot right here. You can notice the little notches there. Just make sure the notches on the battery on the bottom of it match up with the notches here, and then just slide it into place. There should be a push button on the larger battery. Make sure that's on the bottom. If that's on the bottom, it will match up with the notches on the back. And it should just snap into place. I think it goes the other way. Yep. And you just got to kind of feel it out. There you go, until it snaps. There you go. Oh, you guys are already on the tape. All right, once you have the battery in, there's this little wheel right here. If you could just push the green button in on it and slide it to on. And once that happens, you should be in tape mode. The green light should be at the very top of the three choices. Guys, excellent. All right, now you guys should all have cassettes, tapes. To open the cassette, or where you put the cassette in, you just see this little thing on the bottom where it says open eject. Just slide it forward and pull the cover open. And it will pop out automatically, and then you just have to put the cassette in. Make sure that the cassette is face up when you put it in. Yep, just like, oh, no, sorry.
Oh, so like it was before?
Yep.
Okay.
And then if you just push that down, it should go back in automatically. Cool. And then you can close the... And if you push that down, it will go in automatically. And then you can just close this. Everybody there? Sweet. Now, on the actual lens hood, some of them might be mixed up, but it's either on your left or your right side. There's a little switch. It says close and open. If you could just push that to open, just so you can see stuff when you turn the camera on or look through the viewfinder or the LCD screen. Sweet. Now, there are two ways of doing this. Right now, I'm just going to run you through the LCD screen. So it's right here on the left-hand side of the camera, if you can just open that up. You can also close this, look through the viewfinder. There's something right underneath the viewfinder called the diopter. So if you see a blurry image, you can just push that to the side, try to sharpen it. Sometimes with the LCD screens, focus is hard to gauge. So the viewfinder sometimes is a better gauge of whether or not things are in focus. So underneath the viewfinder, again, there's this little switch. If it looks blurry, just play with the switch until it becomes clearer. Again, if you guys look at the LCD panel when you open it up, on the bottom right, there's a little button called the P menu, which stands for personal menu. The menu on this, the regular menu, is pretty extensive, and there are a lot of things in there that you don't really need or that you'll never really use. So if you just hit the P menu now, you'll have 2 pages open up that you can scroll through. And what I've done is I consolidated the menu into the most relevant choices that you guys will probably run into when you're out there shooting. The top left is the regular menu, so if you ever want to get more advanced and in-depth into what the camera can do, the top left, just go through the menu choices there. Right now it's pretty cursory as far as what we're going to do. So as you can see, you have the audio channel 1 level, audio channel 2 level, those buttons. A lot of people, they make the mistake when they try to record audio, they'll go to the volume, which is really controlling just the headphone volume. So like sometimes people come back and be like, the levels are too low, and it's like you have to go through. There's a little inside the camera case. There's a little XLR adapter, which allows you to hook up better shotgun microphones, so you get better sound. So those are the two audio level channels that you're going to be using or playing with, instead of just the volume. That's why they're up there. The Zebra, which is right there next to audio channel 2 level. The Zebra is helpful. I think you can set it at either a 70 or 100, and basically it tells you when something is overexposed, you'll see little zebra stripes on the screen. So if something, say you're playing with exposure and you're worried about whether or not like you've hit the ceiling of what the camera can actually record. Basically, you want to explain IREs, or is it too much in depth?
Well, yeah, I remember I talked about exposure and the aperture. In video, it's measured, the exposure is measured in units called IRE units, which stands for
International Radio
Electric Engineer. Yeah, it's basically a standard that was created 50 years ago that measures the brightness or the exposure of an image. And if you go past 100 IRE units, you're not going to record anything. That's basically where you hit pure white, and adding light just gives you more white.
It's just blown out. So if you go into the editing room and you try to bring some detail back into that, you can't, because there's nothing there. Yeah.
So the zebra stripes tell you when you are either approaching or exceeding that threshold.
And if you guys want to just hit the zebra button right now, because it's kind of, it's one of those things that you probably use. Just hit the zebra on the touchscreen, and if you notice, there's 3 options. There's off, 70, and 100. What I would recommend is when you use the zebra, I would set it to 100, because that's the absolute threshold. I mean, that's the highest you can go. When you see zebras on 100, then you may want to lower your exposure. And if you hit that little button on the bottom right of the screen, the turnaround button, we'll get back to the personal menu. Now, after zebra, there's the white balance option. White balance is one of those things that you want to make sure you do, but after you've set your exposure, after you've framed up your image, after you've focused, but it is important to do. It's all about the color temperature, and if you don't white balance correctly, your image could look to have this really ugly tint of blue or tint of orange or something. You want to make sure that the color temperature is represented correctly within your camera. So, and if you guys look at the right side of the camera toward the front, you'll see a little round button called the Assign button. What I've done with all these cameras is I've already programmed white balance, one push white balance to the Assign button. So instead of having to go through the menu options, whenever you want to white balance, you can just press the Assign button and it will white balance for you. So it's just a little shortcut that all the cameras should be able to access. When you are white balancing, whenever you're going out on a shoot, try to make sure you have a white piece of paper. That's probably the simplest way to do it. If you're working with somebody, just have them stand in front of the camera. Zoom so you're filling the frame with about at least 80% of the white paper. Press the Assign button. There should be a blinking symbol. And once it stops blinking, you're properly white balanced.
So just to give you a little more background on that, basically what you're doing when you hold up that piece of paper is you're saying to the camera, okay, camera, this is white. Make this white. And whatever the kind of color of light you have shining on that paper affects what actually, how the paper is going to read to the camera. These fluorescent lights look very, very different compared to the daylight outside. And, you can actually see it in your eye. Our eyes are great at adjusting, but if you stare at the light and then you look down at the exterior, you can see that it's a little blue. So you put the paper under whatever light you're filming, you frame it up, and you push that button, which is saying, okay, make that image white. Balance all the colors in the sensor so that comes out white, and then all the other colors
Right.
will be relatively true and accurate.
Because white contains all the other colors. It's a conglomeration of all the other colors. Like if you can represent white accurately, then all the other colors will be represented accurately as well. So right next to white balance is spot focus, which is kind of nifty. Basically, if you hit spot focus, just press it, you'll open up this little screen. And if you press something on your screen, on the touch screen, it will focus that object or that person. So you may want to like just, if you guys notice on the back of the camera on the right, there is a little lever which allows you to zoom in and out. Everybody? What you may want to do is just zoom in, go a little, there's not too much telephoto, but zoom into something and try the spot focus and see how it works. See how it adjusts after a few seconds? So it's in focus. So if you just press something with the spot focus enabled, press something on the screen, and after a few seconds it should drift into focus. Is it working? It's working for me. The best way to judge is if you zoom into something. So go telephoto for something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now it works.
Yeah, if you just wait a few seconds, it should kick in. Oh, okay. If you see the zebra, that means that that's overexposed. It's not a huge deal here because, I mean, it's not a detail shot. If it's something that you want to, like, if you want to keep the detail in something, like whether it's a person or an object, if you see the zebra, you may want to bring the exposure down, just so you can keep that detail, and it will record it accurately. But for something like the edge of a table, it's not a big deal because there's no real detail in it. So. If you guys go back to the P menu, and I'll try to speed this up.
We're doing great.
Oh, okay. Back to the P menu, if you scroll down to the second page, you'll see peaking, histogram, steady shot, exposure level, lever, and spot meter. Is everybody with me? Sometimes with the LCD screens, it's really hard to gauge focus. So there's something called the peaking function, which is the top left of the second screen. If you guys want to just hit that. You'll see there's 4 options. There's off, white, red, and yellow. And what peaking does, and by the way, you can't have peaking and zebra at the same time. Like, they can't both be enabled at the same time. So what you probably want to do is, if you're going to be in the same area, set your exposure first with the zebra. Make sure that nothing's overexposed. And if you want to use the peaking, go to that after. But with these LCD screens where it's like really hard to gauge focus, you have the option of surrounding people or objects that are in focus with the color white, like a white outline, a red outline, or a yellow outline. So anything that's in focus, you can choose one of those options, and the person or thing in focus will be have a slight trace of white, red, or yellow around them. And again, with these screens, whether or not sometimes they're smudged or like the resolution just isn't very good, sometimes that's a good option to have available. Because like Chris was saying, if something's out of focus and you bring it into the editing room and it's blown up even bigger, you can really tell that something's soft. So peaking is one of those things that you may want to pull out from time to time just to make sure that you're in focus.
And one other note about about focus. Sometimes you'll find, and today is one of those days, when it's really, really bright out, this screen may not be your best option in terms of seeing the image. If you close the screen, you can actually look through the viewfinder, and then your eye is shadowed. So even in very, very bright conditions, you can see pretty accurately what image you're getting. And that can be very helpful, especially for focus.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you cannot use the viewfinder and the screen at the same time.
No, you can't. So after peaking, there's the histogram, which is just it measures your exposure levels. Like I think to the left of the screen is your black levels, and to the right is your highlights. So if you really want to have a nice balance and contrast to your frame, the histogram is a good thing to have open. It doesn't take up too much space on the LCD screen, but we can talk about that more later on. Steady shot. Whenever you're not using a tripod, make sure that steady shot is enabled, because it overcompensates. Like if your camera's going one way, if it's a little shaky with your handheld work, steady shot just overcompensates with the movement of the frame. So it just stays steadier than if you didn't have it enabled. So exposure lever, it's not really a big deal. Spot meter. A spot meter is kind of like the, was it the focus meter?
Spot meter is...
No, but what was the other one?
Spot focus?
Spot focus, yes. Spot it's focus. Like spot focus, except it works with exposure. So if you guys want to hit spot meter, this is good for like interviews or anything with people, especially if like say there's somebody sitting right in front of a window and like you're getting all kinds of zebras in the window because it's overexposed, but you want to make sure the person sitting in front of the window is properly exposed. If you, again, just like spot focus, if you hit that person or whatever it is you want to make sure is properly exposed on the screen, it'll adjust your exposure automatically. So it tries to maintain proper exposure on whatever you touch on the screen. And again, that's good in a jam if you ever need it. As far as the basic functions that are on the outside of the camera, that are on the shell, there are three ways to zoom. To go from wide to telephoto. One is the ring, but what I would recommend to everybody is, or recommend everybody do, is you see on the left-hand side of the camera at the front, right behind the ring.
Show me.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
Right above where it says focus, there are three options. You can go all the way to the front for zoom. You can bring it toward the middle for autofocus, or if you switch it all the way to the back, you can have manual focus.
Hold still, please, and just show me. Can you talk? Thank you.
We're zooming in.
Leave my band of white. All right. So if you go all the way back, I would recommend keeping that on manual focus, which is all the way toward the back. Because you only have one ring, and you want to make sure that that's freed up for focus, because there are already two ways to zoom. On the LCD screen itself, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there's a W and a T. So if you want to zoom out, you'd hit the W, and it's kind of slow. If you want to zoom in, you hit the T for telephoto. If that's too slow for you, there's also a snap zoom on the back right of the camera, which is this lever right here.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Which part?
What is the snap zoom?
The snap zoom is on the back right of the camera. And if the zoom on the LCD goes a little too slowly for you, I would recommend the snap zoom, which is pressure sensitive. So it doesn't mean that you can't control your zoom. It just means if you want the option of going faster, you have it. So if you guys want to play around with the zoom on the back right, again, it's labeled so W and T. So W for wide, T for telephoto. So I'll just play around with that for a sec. I'm zooming right now. So that way, oh, sure.
Smooth that out of your shirt.
Okay, sure. The top left, now that it's set on manual focus, that switch, you can now focus with the focus ring. So again, the best way to play around with focus is use either the zoom tools on the LCD or on the back right of the camera, and maybe zoom into one of the chairs or something that's one of the cases, or zoom in fairly closely, and just play with the focus ring so you get a good sense of how it works. I'm going to focus on your headphones, Brian. I'm going to focus those there. Excellent. All right. Last thing is exposure. If you guys look toward the front of the camera on the bottom on the left, there's a lever. You move that up and down to control exposure. So again, that's the f-stop or the aperture. So to make the image brighter or darker, I want you guys to play around with that. Tell me if it's working. If it's not working, there's an easy fix. This is the exposure lever. Is that working for everybody? Because sometimes you have to press the button next to it. It's kind of quirky. There should also be a bar on the bottom of the screen as you're exposing. Is everybody comfortable with the basic functions of the camera?
And if you, obviously you're going to gain a lot of experience very quickly with kind of how these things work. So if
Right.
you're a little bit, obviously at sea with some of them, don't worry too much.
Yep.
How do you turn the volume down so it's not beeping all the time?
Oh, that's easy. It's in the, oh, do you want?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's in the menu. So that's one of those that, let me turn mine back on actually. That's in the main menu. So if you hit the P menu, and on the top left, the menu, I believe it's in camera set. So if camera set is already highlighted, press OK. And scroll down, and you should see beep eventually. I can hear that beeping. Oh, actually, it's in the toolbox.
Toolbox.
Yeah, you're gonna have to scroll down a while. Keep going.
Volume?
Nope,
Not
that's for
volume.
the headphones.
Okay.
And beep is close. Beep is, there it is.
All right.
So you can see that these menus are very
And hit off.
complicated, the main menu.
There we go. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? Questions?
Shall we?
Solutions? No?
Sorry, could
About
you
anything?
explain how you adjust the white balance again?
Sure. So if you have somebody else with you, I mean, you could probably do it yourself. Hold a white sheet of paper in front of your camera and make sure that your frame is...
Here,
Oh.
I'll be your model. So again, what I would do is make sure that the light that is hitting your subject, if the subject is me, is also hitting the paper. which it is now.
So should I zoom into the white paper?
Zoom into the paper, yep.
And make sure it fills at least 80% of the frame.
So every time you change your
Your lighting.
oh, just your
Just the lighting, yeah.
Yeah.
So once you've, you know, this would be a difficult room
And
because the light over
Once
by the windows is very
your
different
frame
than
is
the light
filled
over
with
here.
the white paper,
So you might adjust
if you press the
between sides
assign
of the
button,
room.
you'll see a little
But
blinking. It looks
If
like a flower.
the blinds were
almost.
closed and it was all fluorescence, once
You
you
see a blinking
adjusted
flower?
for these lights, you would be fine. For
There it
those
is.
lights.
Once that stops blinking,
It would
you're
be- it
probably
would probably
light
be different,
balanced.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. And once you go outside today to shoot,
Oh, you can take your
once you
finger off
adjust
of
it
it.
once, you'll be
Is
okay.
this still on?
Oh,
Then you don't
Oh.
have to probably adjust it again.
oh wait, it's
As long
like
as you stay outside.
blinking slower. It was blinking faster, then it was blinking slower.
Let me see. It should stop blinking. For a sec.
Not working?
It's still blinking.
Uh-oh.
All right. All right. It should be okay. It shouldn't be blinking, but the color temperature looked to change, so it seemed to change.
Okay.
All right. Now one more quick thing before we head out.
Do you want to talk about the tripod?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what we're gonna do.
great.
So now everybody has tape in the camera, right? Because once we put the plates on the bottom of the cameras, it's gonna be impossible to take any tape out or put it in.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
has tape in?
one disadvantage with this design is that if you are shooting with the tripod, you have to take it off the tripod in order to change tape. And that's how they sort of compromised and made a nice camera that's so small. But anyway, these tripods are about twice the weight of the camera and very cumbersome. So I know you'll want to not use them, and in some situations that's okay. But I also think it's very important to know about them and get used to using them because for a lot of situations, interviews, like sort of elegant sort of architectural shots, beauty shots, it is important to use them and to know how to use them.
Anything
So-
that involves control,
Yeah,
like as much
exactly.
control as possible.
Exactly. If you're
Less-
not shooting something that's like a lot of action or motion.
Right.
So anyway, go ahead, Dave.
So if you guys could just grab the tripod bags that are right there against the wall. There's a plate on top, and you want to release it from the head of the tripod. So there's a little lever on the right-hand side, or there's a little
Latch.
hand latch, and you just want to turn that latch, and then on the left-hand side there's a yellow button that you want to press in, and then your plate should slide right off the top.
Yeah, if you push that, make sure that that's loose. Yeah, I think it's this way. That's, yeah. So that goes on the bottom of the camera.
Once that's off, you notice that there's two holes on the bottom of the camera. Make sure that if you turn the plate over, you'll see there's a word lens and there's an arrow. Just make sure that arrow is pointing toward the front of the camera. And then tighten up the screw. I wish. Yes, the best thing to use is like the flat side of a key or a quarter, and make sure that that screw is really tight, because that's basically, if you're tilting and panning, that's what's keeping your camera on the tripod, and you don't want it falling off. So
the whole purpose of this plate is basically so that you can quickly release the camera from the tripod and quickly put it back on, in case you want to go handheld in the middle of a shoot and then easily slide it back onto the tripod. And just one thing to note, almost the number one thing that happens when equipment gets checked in and out is that people forget to take the plate off the bottom of the camera. The plate stays with the tripod, not with the camera. So you always have to remember to unattach it and slide it back onto the tripod when you return the equipment.
now, if you have the plate on the bottom of the camera and the screw is really tight on the bottom, Make sure it's really tight. Again, the flat head of a key or a quarter would work very, very well. And it looks like you're all set. If you just, from the back,
I think it may be
slide it
backwards.
back into the top of the tripod head, and then tighten that screw on the right again, or the latch. Make sure it's really tight so the camera, again, doesn't slide off.
Oh, actually, I guess that's all right. What I tend to do, I tend to line that one up. See that little brass? So you can line it
Now,
up like that.
on the left side, there should be a handle that you can turn to adjust the fluidity of the actual tripod head. So if you want to have a little
Okay,
more
so now try
resistance,
putting it
you
on
can
the-
play with that. If you want a little less resistance, play with it.
And it goes on, you slide it on from, yeah, so again, you push that in and slide it on. Let go of that. Nope, make sure that it's just engaged exactly like that. Now let go of the red one, and now lock it with that. See, so now it's nice and snug. And then if you want to take it off quickly, you always hold on to it so it doesn't go anywhere, right? You just undo that one, push that button, and it goes on back to front. So it comes off that way, goes on that way.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
again,
this one
this
right
is
here,
just like an emergency
can-
thing. So like,
yeah.
let's say this was loose.
but whenever it's like unattended, make sure that this is all the way forward. Yeah, so it doesn't go anywhere. But this is how much fluidity. Also, right here, you can adjust the fluidity too.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple of times just to, because this is like really like a basic thing. Like the camera could easily fall.
And I guess the last thing would be just balancing it. So we can
Yeah,
talk
although I mean
about
they're so
that.
light that it's. But yeah, you're right. So that it doesn't tilt forward or backward.
No, I'm talking about like making sure that it's balanced, like the level.
Oh, level. Yeah. Oh, the level.
So there's a little knob on the underneath. If you turn that, you can loosen the actual head from the legs, and yeah, just make sure it's level there, and then tighten it. And whenever,
Oh, should I be holding this?
But anyway, so this is just really up to you.
and just make sure it's really tight.
It's harder to do. Can I just hold this?
Yeah, it's probably best to hold the camera when you're doing it.
Oh,
One thing you could try to do is just nudge it with your, like a closed fist or something.
second.
Okay, let me just make sure.
It's slow flow.
That's the tilt.
Which one's withdraw?
It's this. It's just how much you tighten it. So like you can tighten it. You don't want to like tighten it so much that you would break the tripod, obviously. But like this is loose. This is tighter. And then I think here this is. I think this is the pan friction. So you can add friction by turning that as well. So you can both tilt and pan at different rates of drag. And you can mimic, as I said, mimic a much heavier camera like that camera. Okay, questions?
Any questions?
What's the lever near the light running level?
That is for the head itself. I think that's if you're going to be like taking it apart. You should be pushed forward.
Okay, so let's take, if everyone is kind of at a comfortable place, we'll take a short break. And I mean, you're welcome to stay here and keep playing around with the camera, or you can just relax. We'll come back in 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll talk a little bit about the assignment, the exercise, and then the rest of the time we'll basically go out and do a little filming. I have 8 separate kinds of subjects, types of subjects that I want you to try to go and film. And if you only film 6 of them, that's fine. This is not, necessarily a graded exercise, but these are the kinds of things that I think, it would be great for you to get some experience doing. So film a landscape or an architectural view of an exterior of a building. So in other words, an environmental shot. Film an interior space, either static or moving, panning, going through the space, revealing the space. You could go to Stata, you could go to the hall, you can just be creative. Explore an environment with a shot. Film a portrait of a person. And we're not doing audio now, we're not doing sound, we're not doing interviews, we're not worrying about that yet, but create a nice portrait of a person visually. Follow something. And that could be handheld, it could be a pan, it could be both. Just move the camera and figure out a motivation for moving the camera. Remember what we talked about, that when you're moving the camera, you should be doing something with that move. You can either literally follow a person or some other moving object. You can reveal something. So move the camera. Film a close-up of something. In other words, how Brian, our camera person, was zooming in on Dave as he showed the buttons. Film an activity and illustrate something with the camera. Probably in a close-up like that, but if you find some other way to do it or some other shot that tells that kind of story, that's fine too. Think about a way to employ a foreground and a background element. So a person in the foreground, something in the background, 2 people, whatever you might want to do. Reveal something with the camera. That's kind of, that could be the same as the move the camera exercise. Again, you don't have to come back with 8 shots here. Reveal something with the camera, and then the last thing, film something that you think is a beautiful image. Create something that is at least your attempt at making something that's beautiful. Could be a person, could be an image, could be a landscape, could be a close-up, could be one of these other things. But try to create something aesthetically pleasing. Okay.
And whenever you're panning, it's good to position your body where you'll be for the last frame. So if I'm walking that way, you probably want to position your body like here, because that way you're unwinding rather than like you're constantly stumbling with your feet. So find out where your last frame is and try to position yourself there, like, because you're going to be uncoiling your body rather than moving your feet. So, but we'll try it a few times. So then do you want to try it once without recording it and just see how it goes? You can practice just tracking me. Oh, okay.
Well, I think, do we have to use the spot focus?
Yeah, I mean the thing with the spot focus is it takes a few seconds just to adjust. So you may want to try to just manually focus, or you may want to just try to focus as I get closer, and then worry about focus then. But also when you're panning, when I get closer, you can probably have to tilt a little bit just to try to keep like the same composition, like medium shot. Try to go with a medium shot. It's going to be difficult, but.
Yeah, because what's a medium shot?
So like from here up. Okay.
So my question is because you're gonna have different. If you do this spot focus, then it's gonna focus on you, automatically focus on you as you're walking.
Yeah, I mean, I think you may have to. It may take a couple seconds to readjust with motion.
Okay,
So it might be just for like a few seconds, but you could try that. It'd be kind of cool. Give it a shot. And you may want to just adjust the drag on this a little bit, because right now it's pretty tight. Just give me the OK sign.
Sure.
What's that?
I was trying to do it differently. I was so worried about the frame, I forgot to actually zoom in.
Okay. I mean, what you could do is just try to worry on one thing at a time, like worry about the framing. Maybe try to keep me in a medium shot. And then like stuff like focus, that'll take time to juggle all things at once.
Yeah.
So
At the same time.
maybe just worry about tracking my motion
Okay.
and keeping me in a medium shot from the waist up.
From the, okay.
So
first
you're
you
gonna,
hold body, but then.
right. So you're gonna have to adjust like the focal length at some point just to keep me at a medium shot. So let's try that.
By adjusting focal length, you mean?
Zooming in and out.
Okay.
So. You're probably gonna have to zoom out a little bit when I get closer and turn. Nope.
Panning and zooming out.
Okay.
at the same time.
And a little bit of a tilt too, right? Yeah. Do you guys want to try some of the other shots on the list?
Can we try it one more time? 'Cause
Sure.
My first attempt was
Yeah,
kind of a
Yeah. Do you
disaster.
want the same thing?
Yeah, just the same. That's
Okay.
fine.
Just give me the OK sign when you're ready. And when you're focusing on a person, try to zoom in all the way and look for like features on the person's face that are really distinctive. Those are the best places to focus. But I mean, you're gonna be out of focus at some point anyway, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I feel
Nice.
like I got most of it already. It's only been 16 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great place to.
Yeah.
I think I was over across the street and there's just a hallway that we were in, so it's definitely a lot more pleasing.
What
And,
I find difficult is like I see something.
just
and
make
then,
sure you're balanced, level.
Oh, yeah.
Like I keep seeing like there's like pictures, but then like when I film it, I feel like it's not really a video like someone would be interested in. It's, you know?
Well, these are just exercises at this point, so.
Or this, what's this? Isn't this white color?
Just fill the frame with something white.
Maybe like zoom into it.
And make sure that whatever you're filming the frame with is going to be in your main light source, under your main light source. Actually, you get plenty of white to choose from on this.
Yeah. It's mostly white.
Just remember what he was saying about asymmetry in a frame. It'd be really interesting if it's asymmetrical rather than symmetrical.
How can we make this asymmetrical?
I was just thinking about that.
You may want to work on exposure too. You see, you have the histogram up. All those levels right there, that's all your black level. You have hardly anything in the highlights. The right of it would be highlights. So if you want a nice contrast, try to balance it out a little bit so it's spread out in the histogram.
Like that?
That one's
Yeah.
good.
When you're panning, try to figure out where your end shot will be and stay in that shot. So I was just telling the other group this. So instead of shuffling your feet, you're just unwinding your body into its natural place of rest. Do you know what I mean? So you're unwinding your body rather than doing this, and then it's like all jittery, staggered. So try to figure out what your last frame will be. And then even if, you might want to adjust the handle, whatever's more comfortable, but just unwind your body rather than like shuffle with your feet. And you'll get a much smoother pan.
That's a good question. What's next?
We did exterior, interior, portrait of a person. We haven't really done. What is that like? Zooming it like in someone's face?
Yeah, it's just finding a person, placing them interestingly in the frame. And I would do like a medium shot from like waist up. Play around with like a focal length for that. You could do like a wide shot, medium, and a close up of the same person. But again, with that, just remember negative space. If you have the person looking at something, just make sure that whatever they're looking for or looking at, like the negative space is in front of, in line of sight.
So it doesn't look like they're
Looking off
into
frame, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, how the screen is divided into thirds. Try to keep the eyes somewhere in that top third, that cross line.